You know, I do these things a lot, and I never know if people are going to show up, so I really appreciate you guys being here. You're great for the ego, I'll tell you. I did a cooking demo one time. I was in Dallas. It was a long time ago, and there was literally 2 people sitting in the audience because they were old. They were old and they needed a place to rest, and they were sitting sideways, so they weren't even looking at me. It was really super uncomfortable. So I appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to make things super easy and comfortable, if that's all right. I'm going to make risotto. Is this thing breaking up? Hear me? Is it all right? It's a little wonky. You got me, bro? Jonathan on the 1s and 2s over there. You good, brother? All right. So we're going to make it super comfortable. If you have any questions, kind of raise your hand. Raise your hand. Shout it out a little bit. I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself a lot, so Scotty 2 times, like Goodfellas. I'm going to get the paper. It's my humor. Thank you, thank you. All right, so we're going to make risotto. Risotto with truffles. One of the reasons why we're doing risotto, first of all, Matt is. You got me, brother? What's Good, let's do that. Good. You want the whole thing? There we go. How's 1, 2, 1, 2? I'd sing you a song. How about that? Matt Taylor is the chef at Mora Italian in Phoenix. It's one of my newest restaurants out there. Not only is Matt a great guy and a good friend, but he also laughs at my jokes. So we like keeping him around. So we're going to risotto, and it's only slightly awkward that this sound is so effed up. It's only slightly awkward. So we're going to make some risotto, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make risotto today was for the, I talk, for those of you who watch Chopped, for those of you who watch, thank you. I spend a lot of time talking about I'm really easygoing until I'm not. Then I get a little diva-ish. So I spend a lot of time talking about risotto and pasta and no red onions and things like that. So I wanted one of the reasons why we want to do risotto is because I want to talk about why I have this persistence, I would say, to make sure that things are done properly, right? Why I have high standards. How about that? You can't hear me. Can you hear me all right? Is this as frustrating for you as it is for me? Do I need to just let it go? Just let it go. All right, I'm going to let it go. Anybody got a vape I can borrow? It's California, I know how you guys are. What we're going to do is, in this pot, we have a little bit of, can you add like a tablespoon of butter in each one of those bad boys? What I like to do with this risotto is I start with a sofrito, shallots, crushed red pepper, garlic, a little bit of fresh thyme, extra virgin olive oil, and butter. Now, normally risotto is finished with butter, but I like to add the butter in the beginning because, as we've discussed, you got another. This is going to work this time. Oh, let's hope so. All right, we're going to try. Thank you. I know it's not you. So we're talking about risotto. You know that I don't like red onions. I don't like raw onions, not even red onions. So one of the things why I add butter in this initial phase, this sofrito phase. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me all right? Is that better? I'm gonna keep this close by, that microphone, just in case it doesn't work. All right. So one of the reasons why I like to add butter with this sofrito is because the milk solids in the butter will steam the onions and things like onions and garlic. Onions and garlic. You're killing me, bro. You're killing me. So it likes to, I want them to be cooked all the way. All, I'm going to throw this microphone right across the friggin' room on Nacha Miseria. I do my best. So one of the reasons why I like to add that milk solids to steam. What are we doing, brother? I'll give you $100 if you.
Back on the mic. Good thing I got Matt Taylor here. Thank God. All right, so I like to cook. Eventually I'll get through this damn speaking of the shallots. I mean, eventually. I don't drink, but I think I need a drink after this, I swear. All right, so one of the things I like to do is cook those shallots all the way through. And by the milk solids being inside that butter, it helps steam them and get them cooked properly. And this is the sofrito. Normally it takes me about 4 seconds to say that. I think we're going in about 6 minutes right now. That's what I'm guessing. All right, so once that sofrito is done, we started that ahead. Celery, as I said, shallots, garlic, thyme, crushed red pepper, extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of butter. And the reason why that's important is because that is the foundation of flavor. So for those of you who were at the luncheon yesterday, was anybody at the luncheon yesterday? Just a few of you? Good. Not my best moments, but thank you so much. I think you were laughing at my jokes. Yeah. I have really low expectations of things sometimes. So I'm a big believer that you start this foundation of flavor with the sofrito, and then you build on top of that. And that's really important to me, particularly when it comes to Italian food, because I think Italian cooking is really known for its soulfulness, for its, delivery on this nostalgic experience that everybody has, whether it's here in the U.S. if you have an Italian family, or you go to your favorite Italian restaurant in the neighborhood that you love, or it's from your travels to Tuscany and sitting overlooking the vineyards of Tuscany, which is so picturesque and beautiful, right? I think it conjures up an image or an idea of something's going on in this place. I think this is taking off. All right. It conjures up an image of all things Italian and delicious and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's important. We got a lot of risotto here, my friends. A lot of risotto. So what we do with this risotto is we really toast it up and make sure that after the sofrito is cooked, we toast the exterior of that risotto so that it really has a beautiful toasty texture. You'll never get an al dente risotto if you don't toast that exterior hull. I'm going to pause when I say that so you understand the gravity of what I'm saying. I'm going to say it again because it's important. You'll never get an al dente risotto if you don't toast the hull of that rice. Get it? Yeah. It's deep, deep stuff. I mean, deep. You know how many Italians have beat me over the years saying, "You gotta toast it." They beat me up. So, any questions so far? Comments, concerns, anything? Nothing? Yes. What? Which? Armino? I don't know Armino rice. There's three types of risotto. There's violone nano, arborio, and campanini. And Canaroli. Campanini, violone nano are interchangeable. Arborio is probably the most well-known. Canaroli seems to be very well-known, particularly in Tuscany. But my favorite is violone nano. I love the way it cooks up. In a lot of restaurants, you have to par-cook the risotto. That violone nano, I don't do that. But violone nano really tends to cook up the best as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion. But yes, arborio is one of the more well-known risottos, exactly. So it actually comes from a town of Arborio, which I don't know if you know that or not, because it was news to me when I heard it. So there you go. I'm just sharing. That's what we do. Any other questions at the moment? So we're toasting up this risotto. Well, when I say we, I mean Matt Taylor is toasting up this rice. It's on a nice medium-high temperature. On the side, we have a chicken stock, which I think is very important to start with. If you're vegetarian, you could use a vegetable stock. I know you ladies are vegetarian. It doesn't have to be vegetable-based. It doesn't have to be chicken-based, obviously, as long as that tastes like broth, whether it's a vegetable broth, a beef broth, or a chicken broth, or some kind of poultry broth. It should taste with that saline content, which is kind of neutral, right? Where you know, your mother, your grandmother, whoever was a good cook in your family, you would taste that. That's very presumptuous. I'm sorry if there's any orphans in the audience. I apologize. It was insensitive of me. I know we're in California, so I got to say it, you know. Yes. Lentil broth, that may have a little bit too much starch in it, but I think if you strain it out a few times, that makes sense. That's delicious. That's delicious. I mean, I'm assuming it's delicious since you eat it. Sounds like you eat it a lot. So yeah, I'm assuming it's good. Good. Any other questions at the moment? You were good? How's that backpack doing, brother? It's not going to happen? It's not going to happen. I'm going to stick with the microphone. You're killing me, brother. You're killing me. You're a nice guy, though, Jonathan. I like you. All right. So it's going to be hard to make risotto. It's a good thing Matt Taylor is here with one hand. Remember that time we were on stage, Matt, and the microphone broke, and I had to hold the mic, and we had to make risotto with one hand? That was good times. That was fun. Anyway, so as we toast this rice, can we tell stories? Can we talk about some of the other judges on Chopped? Everybody seems to like that. Who's everybody's favorite? Besides me, obviously, yeah. Thank you. I'll be the charming one up here, all right? Alex Guarnaschelli. I get that a lot because you guys don't know her. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Alex is one of my closest friends. We've probably known each other for 20-something years. And Jeffrey is also a very close friend. He's a peach, that guy. It took me about 10 years to love him. And he got his moments. I'll tell you the story when I first met Jeffrey. It was years ago. It was like 1998, 1999. I know you're thinking I don't look that old. It's not what you're thinking, huh? So I walked into this meeting with a friend of mine. Her brother-in-law owned a very well-known restaurant, and the chef, Jeffrey Zakarian, was leaving to open up his first project. He was opening a restaurant. I think it was the Morgan Hotel, a restaurant called Town at the time, which was a very successful run that he had for years and years. So I didn't know Jeffrey. He clearly didn't know me, and you'll understand that as I tell the story. So I walk into this meeting. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. And for like a 26, 27-year-old chef, that is an ungodly hour, particularly when you're single, right? Like waking up and going to a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning is just unheard of for most chefs. But I did it because I was dedicated, and it seemed like a nice opportunity. The owner's name was Ken Oretsky, kind of iconic New York restaurateur. Used to run the 21 Club for about 30 years. I mean, he's one of those guys that when he calls you to have a meeting at 7 a.m., you do it when you're 26 years old. Now I tell him to go bang rocks if he told me to meet him at 7 a.m. But I walk in for this meeting, and Ken's not there, and I sit in this office. The assistants that are working, reservationists, asked me to sit in an office. So I sit off to the side, looking over them. It's this small office. An older gentleman comes walking into the room, much older gentleman, and he stops as soon as he sees me. So let's say I'm the young lady with the black shirt. That's me. Jeffrey looks everywhere with the exception of me, right? And he says, and I stand up because I'm a nice guy, and I put out my hand and I say, "Are you Mr. Oretsky?" And he looks everywhere except at me, and he says, "Can you do me a favor? Can you not be here?" And as he says here, he hits me right in my eyes. I say, "Wow, this guy's a dick." And I may have said that out loud. It was Jeffrey Zakarian. So I looked at the assistants and I was like, what's this guy? Like, and they're like, it's okay. Just, you know. So I stand there. 3 or 4 minutes go by. Jonathan, you're doing it again, man. You're killing me. What's going on? He gets up and walks out of the room. And I'm like, wow. And they're like, that's the chef. He's the one who's leaving. That's Jeffrey Zakarian. Okay, got it. 2 months go by. I'm working at some random restaurant downtown, toiling away, facing the plate, as we say, working 90 hours a week or something. My PR guy at the time calls me, says, I'm going to come in tonight with a table of like 10 people. He comes in with Jeffrey Zakarian. Jeffrey comes walking in the door, says, hey, man, nice to meet you. I've heard so many good things about your food. It's a pleasure to meet you. Oh, I remember you, my friend. I don't say anything because why? Why would I? I'm a gracious host, unlike some other people who tell you to get out of their office and can't look at you in your eyes until they insult you, which has to be commended, you know? 20 years go by. A couple of years ago, maybe 18 years later, we're sitting at dinner with our wives, my wife Mel, his wife Margaret, the two of us. We're eating white truffle risotto, drinking fancy Barolo wine. Life is good for us. He says, you know, I remember the first time we met, Scott, I came into your restaurant, City Eatery. I said, actually, Jeffrey, that is not the first time we met. And let me tell you the story. He looked on with his usual overly confident self. His wife, the best part of Jeffrey, Margaret, was horrified. Like, Jeffrey, why would you say that? Jeffrey leans back, crosses his arms, crosses his legs, and says, I remember that. I was just pissing on my territory. Not even an I'm sorry. And that is the moment I love Jeffrey, because he's unapologetic. He can't help it. It's who he is. I love him. I love him. The best. All right, we're going to add some white wine to this risotto, just enough to get to the top of the rice. And we're going to cook that out. So what happens with wine when you add it to something, I do that with Jeffrey a lot. I'll hold these little stories of when he's an asshole to me, part of my language, and I'll bust them out at different times just to get his reaction. One time when we were in Aspen all together, and I didn't know who he was, but he was walking around with his now wife Margaret, and everybody was like, "Who's that guy? Like, what?" You know, his hair was dyed brown, and Jeffrey has a beautiful mane of white hair, right? He's so sophisticated, and he's really, I mean, he's such a great dresser, and he is one hell of a cook, I'll tell you that. I mean, this guy, he cooks like an angel. Are you recording this, sir? You're not going to share this with my friend Jeffrey, are you? That's not going to happen. We're just friends talking here, you know? So we were someplace, and he was giving me a hard time about something because he tends to do that, like, really, it's like a brother who knows how to push your buttons. I had a therapist years ago who said, your family knows how to push your buttons because they created your buttons. And I was like, wow, that's holy shit. Like, fuck, I don't know how Jeffrey created these buttons, but somehow he knows how to push them very well. So he was giving me a hard time about something, and I said, you know, Jeffrey, I got a question for you. Remember that time you were walking around with your hair dyed? Was that your idea, or was that Margaret's idea when you first started dating? And he looked at me like, how the hell do you remember that? And the best thing about Jeffrey is when you get him, he's good. You know, he doesn't fight. He's just like, you got me. And he says, how do you remember that? Like, how'd you not bring that up? I mean, that was 15 years ago. Like, how do you not bring that up? And I said, I was just waiting for this moment when you really pissed me off. Then I can give it to you. That's all. It's all good. It's all good. Well, we're close friends. We hang out all the time. We have a thing where we like to. I didn't get you with that rice, did I? I'm sorry about that. It's hard to make this risotto with one arm. What'd the one-arm chef say when he was making risotto? I wish I had a second arm though. I'll hold the pot. I wish Matt Taylor was up here with me. So we're going to start adding a little bit of. Once that wine is reduced, what happens is. Once the wine is reduced, what happens is it starts to turn a little bit sweet. There's that moment with wine where it goes from very acidic and the alcohol starts to cook out, it takes on a form of sweetness. And that's when you want to start adding. It still has a nice acidity level, but there is a little bit of sweetness in there as well. And that's the goal. The reason why you want that wine in there is because you want that acidity level. Yes? This is a medium-high heat. The goal is that you want the broth hot, and so that way when it's added to the rice, it's never dropping the temperature of what's in the pot. Because what will happen is you'll end up with something, imagine this, right? It gets cold, it heats up again. It gets cold, it heats up again. The exterior of the rice will get gummy and overcooked, and the middle will still be raw. And we don't want that. Yes? The wine was cold. But, there's always one, there's always one. Yes. Yes, Jeffrey. Yeah. You're clearly like his much younger sister, Yes. Normally, I'll use something like a Sauvignon Blanc, high in acid, no wood. You don't want that oaky feeling, oaky texture, right? Any other questions at the moment? None? Who else can we make fun of? Yes. It's so we roast the bones of the chicken, add a little bit of tomato product, so it has that blondish hue. I'm not just saying that because it's you I'm talking to. Go ahead. Yeah, well, we didn't do that. That's why. That's right. I only got one arm, lady. Come on, don't give me a hard time. One thing we don't do is make fun of Bobby Flay. We don't do that. No. Why? Because he's Bobby Flay. That's why. You don't do it. I love Bobby. People always ask me, like, tell me about Bobby. I'm like, what's to tell? I mean, you don't talk about the king. You don't do it. That's it. And that you can share. Bobby is one of the more successful people in the restaurant world for a reason. Because he's incredibly insightful. And he really is the guy that we go to if we're Bobby and Jonathan Waxman. You guys know Jonathan Waxman? Jonathan Waxman we call Obi-Wan because he is literally like Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's just all-knowing. And you ask him a question, and he's kind of like, well, when I was your age. And he gives it to you straight. And it's really impressive. He's the best. How we doing, brother? Good. This might take a while, folks. I don't know who's going on after us, but yeah, chances are this is rough. Good times. Any other questions? Yes. Everything has an effect. So sometimes people say use copper pots. I find copper pots way too hot. It conducts the heat at too high of a level. So for a professional kitchen, it's way too much. These are stainless steel because they have these are induction burners, so it needs to conduct the magnet inside the induction burner, and that's how that works well. At home, what do I use? I use like All Clad or Moviel or something like that. Being a chef has its perks. We get good pots. I mean, that's what happens. The aluminum I don't like to use because as you scrape the aluminum, some of the color and there's a flavor transfer if you're using metal on metal. So I'm just personally not a fan of aluminum. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging you. We're all friends here. We're in a safe place. Except if you're Jeffrey Zakarian. Then all right. Did I answer your question or no? Okay, good. Anything else? We good? Nothing. Good. So as we stir this, and eventually we'll be all right. So I think just rub your finger on the inside part there. Yeah. Good stuff. We're going. One-handed risotto. What else? What else, guys? Let's have a conversation. Yes. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. How do we prep risotto for restaurant service? I, as a rule of thumb, never have risotto on a restaurant menu because I don't like things that I know are going to be inconsistent. Right? It's one thing if you stumble into inconsistency, then you fix it. It's another thing if you put it on the menu knowing that it may be 100%, it may be 80%, depending on who orders and at what time. So this is a conversation Matt Taylor and I had a few months ago. We just don't put it on the menu because it's too inconsistent. Yeah. That's probably not the right answer, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Yes. So I have a restaurant in, thank you for asking. I have a restaurant in Phoenix called Mora Italian. I have one in Las Vegas at the Red Rock Hotel Casino Resort called Masso. I have one in Resorts World Casino in the Catskills, upstate New York. I'm doing a new one in Scottsdale, which I'm super excited about. It'll be called Americano, which is an obvious name for an Italian restaurant by an American chef, right? And I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. We're doing massos. I just signed a deal to do about 9 massos around the country. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah. What is a brunoise? You're holding up the recipe. I know what a brunoise is. I got it. I'm with you. It's hard to open a bottle with one hand. Can you open this for me? Thank you so much. Thank you. A brunoise is a very small dice. Very small. I would say it's about 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch. That's about right, Matt? 1/8 of an inch? Thank you, chef. Matt says it's right, so it's good. Thank you. Let's add more liquid to that. So if you notice what's happening in this risotto is as we stir, we're agitating the rice, and it's becoming very thick, right? What you want, the only way you're going to really achieve desired result of this risotto is by agitating it vigorously and making sure that that starch is coming out. So the intention is that the rice will be held in this starchy liquid that you're added to it. You don't want to cook the liquid out. You want that agitation of the starch and be able to be suspended, the rice to be suspended like a rice pudding, right? But there's a perfect texture of the rice, right amount of starch in the inside the rice. You see what I mean there? Can we get that? See how that is? See how that is where it's suspended inside the rice? There's a heavily starched liquid there, which is all those starch grains. If there wasn't, oh boy, oh my God. What happened? This is completely off now. Hi. It went off. It shut off. I'm freaking out. Oh my God. So here comes the kitchen guy. Thank you, bro. They make these things so simple that only a child knows how to use them. It's like an iPad, right? Like somehow you give a 4-year-old an iPad and they've mastered it in like 3 minutes. I read this study that a guy was in Africa and he was in this small little village and he had an iPad and literally a kid never seen electronics before. This child picks it up and starts using the iPad. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I got a problem. You know what I mean? Clearly. Anyway, that's working great. Thank you, sir. That's awesome. Thank you. We got 10 minutes to finish this. You got a better chance of playing pickup sticks with your butt cheeks. It's not going to happen. Shanique and I go way back. Remember yesterday when I told you, what's the time frame? And I was like, I'm going to go over it, just so you know. And she's like, yeah, for you, Scott, don't worry about it. Now she's like, yeah, 10 minutes. But I warned you. I told you. Oh, that's the extra. We're really screwed. Wow. So we're cooking risotto. Good times. It'll be worth the wait, folks, I promise. Even if some other guy is up here doing a demo about his stuff at the same time. This is why nobody cooks risotto on Chopped, because you can't get it done. It'll be worth the wait, I promise. We need salt. Oh my God. That's delicious. It's a little spicy. Yes. The worst thing I've ever had to eat on Chopped. I love this question because it's disgusting. So I feel like if I had to do it, I'm going to share it with you guys as well. We literally had the anus of a pig. Yeah. And it was tough because the pig kept moving, you know? I'm just kidding. Matt's heard that joke like 500 times. It's not, it like doesn't even, yeah, whatever, man. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, it's a disgusting joke. Yeah. I have the same one about ducks' testicles, but we'll get to that later. I am, yeah. Why, are you an interior designer? Yeah. How did I know that? Yeah, you're going to give me your card later for my next restaurant, hopefully. Please, yeah, that'd be great. Yes. I had room service. I've been on a tear. I know it's pathetic. I've been on a tear, and I'm not as young as I used to be, and it's exhausting. Like I got on a plane. I haven't been home in 3 weeks. First of all, so I've been on it's a high class problem. Don't be like, oh, that's too bad. The only people I really feel bad for are my daughters because I don't see them as much as I'd like to. So I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. Yeah, they're the best part of my world. They really are. I get all weepy, so I don't want to talk about it. Literally, I get all weepy, so I got to like give myself a moment. I was in New York City with them. They were on spring break last week, and then I ran out of clothes because I'd been traveling for 2 weeks. So I came home for a few hours, jumped on and changed my clothes, took a shower, repacked, and then went to Vegas for an event that I had for the 1-year anniversary of Maso. And then so we did that. I had an off-site event for a charity event that we did for Keep Memory Alive, which is a charity in a local Las Vegas charity that does, it's a charity for brain-related diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, things like this. So we did a dinner at someone's home for 10 people, raised about $50,000 on that, which was really nice. For anybody who's dealt with people with Alzheimer's or any of these brain-related, it's a heartbreaking disease. So I try to do, I do things for kids with cancer, missing kids, and Alzheimer's. So those are the charities that I work for. So after that, we had the anniversary dinner. I had a media lunch with my product, Spreads of Foods. I'm Scott Conant. This is Spreads of Foods. We have a tomato sauce as well that we do for Spreads of Foods. My kids got to go to college, man. You know, cut me some slack. And then I left the party early because I had to fly to New York City. So I landed at 5 a.m. I went right to set. I shot a show with Ann Burrell, Worst Cooks, for a special for Thanksgiving. Check it out. Check it out. Thanksgiving. And then I got on another plane, flew out here. I landed about 3 a.m. I landed at 1 a.m., took a car here, got here at 3:30 a.m., and then we had the lunch yesterday. So I went to my room last night, and I had room service because I was invited to dinner, and I'm like, listen, I love you guys. Thank you very much, but I need a little self-preservation. I think goes a very long way. You know what I mean? So I got a cold sore. I'm like, you know, like I'm getting old. Yeah, I got to sleep. I got to sleep. Anybody got that vape that we talked about or no? I need to. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Kind of. I can't talk about all of them. We're looking at D.C., Detroit, Portland, something else in Vegas, something else in Scottsdale, Miami potentially if I could work it out. I still have a restaurant in Miami. I started a company called Scarpetta years ago, and I don't have any Scarpettas that I'm involved with anymore, except Miami. It's Scarpetta by Scott Conant. I'm Scott Conant. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes. So I had a restaurant in Los Angeles. I'm actually looking at a new project there, confidentially. Don't tell anybody. Another secret we're going to keep. Don't share the, block that part of, redact that part of your video. Seems to be a popular word these days. But yeah, we're looking at something in LA as well. We'll see. We got approached about something out here as well. I don't know if I can make the numbers work. So the restaurant business is tough. Oh my God. It's not like it used to be. How we doing? Close? So one of the things that, let's get that nice and creamy. Perfect. Thank you, chef. Thank you. Thank you. A little while longer. I think the 10 minutes is up, but what do you want me to do? It's not done. Anyway, any other questions? Nothing right now? Yes. Chicago? I don't know. Maybe. Why, you know an investor? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. San Diego, I would love to. I love San Diego. Such a great town. Yeah, great town. Any place else? You guys have any other requests? I feel like a DJ. Anything else? Just open up a restaurant. Maybe I'll do pop-ups. It's a lot less work, and I could leave at the end of it. Not, you know. Why is it more difficult to have restaurants now than before? You know, the list goes on and on. It's too much. There's a lot of insurance reasons. There's a lot of costing reasons. The occupancy expenses in restaurants. Don't get me started, because I am not by any means a conservative. I know where I am, by the way. I know my audience. But I think that there's so many burdens put on entrepreneurs sometimes, quite frankly, that we can't keep up. Nobody opens up a business to lose money, right? I am a believer in taking care of your team. You have to take care of your staff. But you can't do it to the point where it's at your own expense and you're losing money so that everybody else can have a great living, right? So there's got to be a balance here. And I think all too often restaurants are always the first to sign up when there's a catastrophe. We're always the first one to show up. We're always the first ones to do charity events. We're always the first ones to take money out of our pocket to help a staff member who needs eye surgery, a staff member who is, whatever the case may be. I'm a believer in that. You take care of the people who take care of you. One hand washes the other. We're a team. We're a family of sorts. But then there's lawyers that get involved, right? And there's somebody who thinks that they're being cheated because the owner is driving a new car, right? And this has happened to friends of mine, God knows. And they get sued. And that small discrepancy, which could or couldn't be a mistake, suddenly becomes a huge deal. And then the restaurant has to go out of business. And then, you know, so these are issues. These are problems. There's the cost of food, the cost of occupancy, the health department that shows up and is giving you tickets because they have a quota that they have to fulfill. The housing department showing up and saying, you know what, we don't like where this air conditioner is located. Well, you know, what are you going to do? It's going to cost $300,000 to move to a different location. And that's, if you're lucky in a restaurant, that's your profitability for a year. Most restaurants don't make that much. So I will tell you this. I did a TV show for 2 weeks. I made more money on that TV show without staff, and I'm in a very fortunate situation, right? Not everybody just gets to do a TV show. That's not the way it works. But I made more money in that 2 weeks than one of my restaurants could make me in 2 years. So you tell me what the choice is. I have children. I love Skippy peanut butter. They're not endorsing me anytime soon and giving me a boatload of cash to talk about how much I love reduced fat, chunky Skippy peanut butter. But if they did, you know, then it's a different story. Anybody work for Skippy? Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Well. Why did I choose risotto? Yeah. Yeah, well, we had a little more than 20 minutes, and normally it works. It's not working today. Yeah. But thank you for your feedback. Have I considered Iron Chef? No, I haven't. No. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm a nice guy. I think you can see that. I clearly have a sense of confidence. I've never been accused of not. I despise competition. I get like, I don't get nervous. I get angry. I get vicious. I lose my sense of self because I want to win. And when I don't win, I get incredibly angry at me, not at everybody else. I'm a very internalized person. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me. When Jeffrey and Alex were competing on Next Iron Chef, I remember saying to them, we had a long sit down and talk about it and stuff. And I was like, the worst thing that can happen is you win this thing. Then you got to do this stuff all the time. That's like the worst. I can't imagine. Anyway, what do I know? Yeah, so Bobby said to me a couple months ago, you should be an Iron Chef. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I like, this is fun. We hang out, talk. I tell stories, make fun of my friends. They don't even know it because we're not sharing those videos, right? Good times. All right, risotto's almost done. Let's get a little more broth in there to cream it out a little bit. I'm going to put this thing down and finish this. Is that all right? Let me just take some of this spritz olive oil from Scott Conant and finish the risotto with it. It's delicious. I'll do a little more in this pot. It's yummy. You know, sometimes feeling like a whore it's quite refreshing. The truffles are from Urbani. These are black truffles from Périgord. Ooh la la. That's French. So years ago, we're talking about a truffle hunt over here. Years ago, I worked at a restaurant in New York City called San Domenico. And San Domenico was a really, really well-known restaurant at the time in New York, widely considered one of the better restaurants in the country, or at least when I worked there, clearly. But it was an interesting place, and every year they used to do this big truffle dinner with literally, you know, people from various cities, Italy, cities in Italy and all this stuff. They would come over. One year, they brought a truffle dog, and they buried a 2-pound truffle in the middle of Central Park. And they took this dog. The restaurant was on Central Park South, and it was probably 500 or 600 yards away from the restaurant where they buried that truffle. And they said, it was a big press event. They had this little Jack Russell, which was the truffle dog. They have a great sense of scent. And let's get a little more broth in there, chef, if we can, please. How are we doing? Salt? We good? A little more broth in these. They bury the truffle. They bring the Jack Russell out to they close off Central Park South. They bring the little truffle dog outside, the Jack Russell, and he takes off running. And he went, I'm talking 500 yards away, right to that truffle sitting in the middle of Central Park South. And I'll never forget it. I mean, it was incredible how, yeah. And he didn't eat it either. That was the other thing. I was expecting the dog to start, kind of chewing it down and stuff. It didn't happen. Really impressive. All right, let me finish this so you guys could eat some truffles. Please. Say again?
We'll serve out of these two.
This one's not good?
It's a little
Too al dente? Oh, is it burned?
Scorched.
Did it scorch?
A little bit, yeah. We'll knock
boy.
out of these two.
Okay, good.
This will be funny.
I wasn't meaning for you to clap for me, but I appreciate that. That's really nice. Normally people don't clap at all, so I guess now I know how to get them to clap for me. Thank you. Yes. So thank you for bringing that. I was meant to talk about that, wasn't it? So what I like to do is add another level of richness, to add another depth, another texture, that beautiful viscosity and texture that an egg yolk brings. Obviously, it's a lot of fat, but it's also, it kind of liaises everything together. And that's Matt and I were talking about it the way here. That's not a traditional thing by any means. That's just something I like to finish this truffle risotto, particularly with egg, because I just think, first of all, eggs and truffles go great together, and I think it's good. There you go. So that's it. That's my answer. I think it's good. Yes, sir. What? Is the recipe in the cookbook? Yes, sir, it is. And the Scarpetta cookbook. Oh, yeah, and you have one. I think you may be sitting on it, sir. That's what that is. Yeah, it's a recipe. Yeah, you just thought it was a comfortable chair. That's a recipe you're sitting on, sir. So we got some black truffles that Chef Matt is shaving into that bad boy. What else, guys? Any other closing comments, concerns? I apologize for the delay, but I don't really care. Let's be honest. I love hanging out with you. Oh, the microphone stopped working again. I guess that's my out. You ever see, what was that show, The Apollo? The guy's going to come out and pull me off stage with a thing. Anyway, I hope, yes. With what? Instapots. I don't know what that. Oh, pressure cookers. I think pressure cookers are necessary depending on what your needs are. I personally, I've only used them for beans and braising items if I need them kind of quick. So you could braise short ribs in a short amount of time. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Any other questions? All good? I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm sorry for going over. You've been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.